Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible to all of you guys, and I hope you all are doing good. I am Zarak Khan, and I myself am a creative content writer and the speaker for today's workshop, that is Unleashing Creativity: A Guide to Effective Creative Writing. So, in the today workshop, we are going to understand the basics of the creative writing. In the next slide, in the next slide, there are some objectives that I have designed for this workshop. So, in today's workshop, I'll be briefly talking about creative writing, the fundamentals of the creative writing, the basics of the creative writing. I would try and I'll try that at the end of this session, you people would have grasped something about the fundamentals of creative writing. You people would be enabled to actually understand what creative writing is and how could you people try to write or write effective craft effective writings. Secondly, in today's workshop, we will learn about the practical techniques that is going to boost your creativity. We will learn about different practices that is going to help you while writing, while unlocking the creativity of your mind. Those practices which you people, if practice, you people will be able to achieve the creativity that you people want. So, in the next slide, we will move on to our first section of today's workshop, that is understanding creative writing. Uh, so, first of all, this question lingers in all of our minds, that what is creative writing? To begin with that, I just want to ask a very simple question. Have you guys ever wondered why is it that stories appeal to us human beings, to us Homo sapiens, more than anything else? Have you guys ever wondered that basic concepts like unity is strength, like a friend indeed is a friend in need is a friend indeed, or honesty is the best policy, or grapes are sour? Why are these concepts are being taught to us, or are we have been taught these concepts through stories, and through such stories that we remember till the day? Why is it that these stories or these basic concepts, which could be in either way, they could have, if they were written in some other form, if they were conveyed to us in some other form, we wouldn't have been able to grasp those concepts so effectively? But why is it that when we hear it in a form of story? And the interesting thing is that from the day, like from a very early age, we have been told these stories, and from a very early age, when we have listened about these stories, when we have learned these stories, from that day till now, whether it is Thirsty Crow, or it is the Game of Thrones, or it is the Alchemist, if not all the details, we remember the basic concepts and the themes of these stories. So why is it that these stories appeal to our memory, these stories appeal to our logic so much? And that, everyone, in itself is a definition of creative writing. Creative writing is actually that art of writing through which we convey a basic theme, a message, a social message. It could be a social message, it could be an academic message, it could be a philosophical message through words. And these words are not bounded by the conventional writing, by the professional writing boundaries. It allows you to explore your feelings, to explore your imaginations. It allows you to explore your fantasies actually. So basically, creative writing is a form of writing uh, through which, or through the stories we craft, we convey a certain message, either to some people, to a specific audience, or to a complete society. There are different types of creative writings. There could be fictions, there could be non-fictions, poetry, script writing. I have written some of them here, but there are a number of types of creative writing. It involves songs, it involves free writing, it actually involves uh, copywriting and stuff like that. But we would be talking about certain and basic types which you all might be familiar with. So let's begin with fictions. Fiction is a form of creative writing which includes novels, short stories, novelettes, dramas, stage dramas, and stuff like that. When we write fictions, in fictions, we write, it is mainly the writing which might not be true, which might not be a commentary on a certain event, but it will be the identical event which is already going on in the world. In easy words, if I'll try to convey it, it is that fiction is a fantasy. It's a fantasy actually. It is the description of a fantasy which carries a message. It is a story which is not completely true, but it is also not completely false. It is something which is possible and could happen in the world. So it includes novels, it includes short stories, which you people read, which you people often read, and that is creative writing. Secondly, we have non-fictions. When we talk about non-fictions is actually a true story or a commentary over a certain event. That event has happened in the world, and we are writing about that specific event. It includes essays, it might include memoirs, it might include letters. All those things are a form of non-fiction creative writing. The third one is poetry. Now we all know what poetry is. Poetry is actually the aesthetic description and the lyrical and rhyme description of a certain event, of a certain message, or of a certain theme. When we talk about poetry, we talk about rhymings. When we talk about poetry, we talk about aesthetics. So poetry is the aesthetic of writing. Poetry could be of very different types, and it goes to a very different topic, but the thing which is concerned with our topic is that poetry is a form of creative writing which is lyrical, which is in rhymes. The fourth one here is script writing. Basically, as we all would have seen movies, as we all would have seen different shows or maybe even ads, so the script, the story that the particular movie depicts in a picturized way or in a visionary way, that script is also a form of creative writing. We write a story, we write a whole script for a movie, and that then the actors, they act upon that script and they visualize it, they actually picturize that whole story for the audience. uh, as for the next question, which says why creative writing is important. So, if you guys remember, as I said at the beginning, why is it that the stories appeal to human minds so much? Now, to describe that from an evolutionary perspective or from the perspective of our brain structure, so the brain structure of human beings are designed in a such way that it accept material which is given them through the way which fascinates the mind. It actually strives to make things, make complicated and complex things easy, to simplify things. And that's what we do in creative writing. We aesthetically present certain messages, we aesthetically present the concepts which are easy for human minds to gain, which are easy for human minds to comprehend. And this is why creative writing is important. It appeals to the memory of human beings, it appeals to the behavior of human beings, it actually draws human beings, and it effectively conveys your message. So, if you are writing for creatively writing for some brand, if you want to sell your product, if you want to convey your message, creative writing is your way. There is a very interesting saying about diplomacy. They say that diplomacy is the art of telling people to go to hell while they ask for the directions. And it is on a very lighter note. So from that, the thing I have crafted is that creative writing is actually an art of writing about the hell in a way that people actually get fascinated by the hell. They would actually fantasize about going to the hell. So I guess that's the importance of creative writing. It helps. and gaining and grasping the attention, the interests of the audience you are actually targeting. Now, over to the next slide. There are certain elements of creative writing. Creative writing in itself is a whole um, kind. So it have different components that actually make a story. Like, let's say we will, instead of creative writing, we will keep a story in our minds. We'll keep a story in front of us, so that is going to help us understand the key components or the fundamentals of creative writing. So whenever we write stories, we must, the first thing we must have is a plot. A plot is basically all those series of events that advance the stories, that actually aid on to the stories. For example, there is a movie, Shawshank Redemption, if you all have watched it. Now, if I ask all of you guys what is the plot of Shawshank Redemption, so you people can tell me that it's a story based on a prison, and there is this main lead guy who actually tries to escape from there. So, these whole series of events, it makes the plot of a story. And effective plot is important for effective creative writing, because if your plot would be connected, if your plot would be effective, it will be easy for the audience, it will be easy for the readers, it will be easy for the viewers, or for whatever kind of form of creative writing you are actually crafting your stories or your scripts. It would be easy for the audience to grasp your concept. The second main component of any story, of any creative writing, is a character. There are number of characters in a story, but the most important characters are the protagonist and the antagonist of the story. Protagonist is actually the main lead of the story, and which is the whole story revolves around that main lead or that protagonist in a story. In a story, in a novel, in a drama, whatever. And the antagonist could be either one character, or it could be a series of events. It could be uh, many different characters, which will actually be a challenge for the main lead, which will actually help in developing the story of the main lead. The one thing that I forgot about the plot, there are five different components of a plot. When we are designing the plot of a creative writing, I don't want to go into the technicalities, but there are five main components which we oftenly see in a story, which we oftenly see in a movie too. So the components are of the components of plot are actually exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. In this sequence, a plot develops. First of all, there is exposition. When we talk about the exposition of plot, so it is that event in which the story is introduced. All right. The second one is the rising action. So when we talk about the rising action, it's that part of the story where the story starts to take flight. A story is going now, the background of the story has been built. Now the story is going upwards. The climax is that part of the story where story reaches to a point which is a connecting point between the rising action and the declining action of the story. The fourth part, or the second last part of the plot, is a falling action. It is that component of a plot where a story starts to unfold. It's that part where a story is proceeding towards the end, and at the end we have resolution. Okay, now the third component of, or the element of creative writing, is setting. One of the most important things about a story, or while writing a story, while creating a novel, is the setting of that story. Setting means the culture that you would be presenting in your story, the surrounding that you would be presenting in your story, the climate that you would be presenting in your story, the people that you will be actually presenting in your story, the surroundings, the location. That is what we call a setting. You people might have read different dramas or different plays. So if when you read that, or even in novels, you would find a very detailed description of the surroundings, of the people. You would find a detailed descriptions even of the colors of the you know they would describe the color of sky, they would describe the color of water, they would describe the color of forest. So these are the things which is important to grasp the attention of a reader, to give them even if they are reading your story, they feel like they're actually seeing the things, they're actually present in that movement. So to create that, it is very important to craft an effective setting for your story. The fourth and most important thing about a story is the theme. As I told you earlier, that creative writing is that form of writing through which we convey a certain message to the audience through words. So, the theme of the story or the theme of the creative writing is important in that regard because it is the backbone of your whole story. If you have a proper theme, now the difference between plot and theme is that when we talk about plot, we talk about the events that are happening in the story, but when we talk about theme, we talk about a much holistic approach. We talk about the backbone of the whole story. We talk about something which the story is actually conveying, the meaning of that story. For example, there is a very good writing. There is a an excerpt that is taken from Shakespeare's Hamlet. It says, "To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether this nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them." Now, this little excerpt, it the theme of this excerpt, it is written very beautifully, and the theme of this excerpt defines the mortality of human being. It talks about life and death in a very beautiful way, but not even for a single moment life or death is mentioned in this writing. So that's how themes are. Themes might not be directly described in a writing, themes might not be directly presented in a story, but it is actually the backbone of that whole writing, of that whole story. The last component of creative writing is the style through which you are actually conveying your message. It could be, again, it could be play, it could be essay, it could be short story, it could be a novel, it could be some poetry through which you would be actually conveying your message. There are two very interesting books which I would recommend to you guys if you want to learn the art of creative writing. And those books are not some descriptive form of not a guide to creative writing. Those are actually uh, stories that are written by different authors, and they are a wonderful guide. Like, if you would read those stories, if you would read those books, you will completely get what creative writing is. So the first book is it's a novel, 1984, written by George Orwell. It is a political novel. The whole theme is based on a society, on authoritarian society, and the way he describes the whole society is wonderful depiction, or I would say is a magnum opus in the field of creative writing. And the second book, that is actually a play written by Samuel Beckett, and the play name is Waiting for Godot. So I would recommend you guys to must visit those books, to must read those books, to understand the fundamentals of creative writing and to understand the art of creative writing. Now, to the next slide. So our section 2 in today's workshop is overcoming obstacles and generating ideas. One of the most important things to write stories, for creative writing and to write effective stories, is having an idea. As we talked earlier in the last slide, that theme of the story is really important, and after that, plot of the story. These are the two basic things that actually build the story. You could add characters later, you could choose your style later, maybe you could refine your writing later, but the most important things that you must have is an idea on which you are going to write, and the second thing is the plot, the events that you are actually going to craft. And one of the most significant challenge and significant issue that creative people face, or maybe that every writer face, is a writer block. It is actually a condition in which you are out of ideas, maybe. It is actually a condition in which you cannot craft, you cannot create anything, because your mind is not helping you. You are maybe stressed too much, you are maybe uh, consumed by the your daily task, or there could be thousands of reasons to that, but it is the most significant issue, significant challenge that is faced by the writers. uh, so to overcome these this writer block, to overcome these challenges that you might face while crafting creative writing, and you should never be disappointed when you experience this block, because once in a while every writer face that. But there are ways, there are strategies to actually overcome these challenges. The first of all and the most effective one is free writing. You might have certain ideas in your mind, your ideas might not be connected. Your theme, you might have a theme in your mind, but your plot might not be, you might not be able to connect your plot, you might not be able to connect your events, or you might not be able to structure your writing. So in that case, you people have to write freely. You people have to write without thinking about the structure. You people have to write without thinking about the research. You people have to write without thinking about the connection. Just keep writing whatever you have in your mind, all the unsequenced thoughts, all the unsequenced or unrefined ideas. Just keep writing them. Whenever you write those ideas, whenever you put those words on a paper, they actually you know at first they would not, you would feel like they don't make any sense. But later on, once you put those words on a page, on a paper, they would start making sense to you. You would actually be able to find a connection in them, you would actually be able to refine them. So while when we talk about content writing, when we talk about academic writing, at the beginning we talk about doing your research, we talk about completing your research before writing. But when it comes to creative writing, we never suggest to start, you know to do research or to start writing in a structured way. No. In creative writing, the most important thing is free writing. You must have an idea. If you have an idea in your mind, just write that, just put that on a paper, and then you will have ample amount of time to actually refine those ideas, or to actually connect those plots. Secondly, there are different brainstorming techniques. Brainstorming techniques involves reading from different places. It involves watching different things. It involves listening to different stories. It actually involves searching your brain for different ideas that you might have in your brain. It involves writing certain outlines, or maybe some key topics for yourself that will actually motivate you to further explore or to further write about those ideas. And the third thing is to setting realistic goals. Obviously you're not, yeah, or nobody is uh, able to overcome a writer block in a single day. Nobody is nobody could write a whole book in a single day. So it might take some time, but if you will practice it daily, if you are going to, if you fix a routine, if you keep practicing over it, so you and everyone would be able to overcome these challenges. Now over to the next slide. Okay, now once you have overcome your writer's block, or you have thought about you have thought about writing something, writing a story, maybe writing a script, writing an essay, it is very important to have creative ideas in your mind. It is very important that you have a theme and you have a way to actually depict that theme in a form of story. So for that, there are certain techniques. The first one we called is mind mapping. By mind mapping, it is actually a thought process. You have to think through your idea. You have to think about the idea you are most interested in and you want to write about, first of all. And then you would have to actually draw a whole series of events in your brain. How would you start writing about that idea? How are you going to connect that idea? What would be the climax of your idea, of your story, and how are you going to actually end that story? So in this particular way, in this particular sequence, you would map your brain and you would actually craft that idea in your mind. The second one is using prompts. Using prompts is actually, again, I would say it is outlines. You would, the idea that you have in your mind, you would actually put that on a paper. You would create different prompts for yourself. Like, let's suppose you want to write about leadership. You want to craft something. You want to craft a story that signifies the different qualities of leadership. So you would leave some prompts for yourself regarding leadership. You will ask yourself questions. You will ask yourself, what is it that makes a great leader? You will ask yourself, what could be the possible habits, what could be the habits of a leader, of an effective leader. So all these questions will lead you to your story. All these questions will lead you to write an effective plot, to generate an effective theme for your story. And the third and the most important one is observing your surrounding. When we, in our surrounding, there are different ideas every day. When we observe our surrounding, there are different stories, there are thousands of characters always moving around us, always. So whenever you would listen to any creative person, they would tell you that they are mostly inspired, or their ideas, or their the topics that they write. For an instance, if we talk about Sadat Hassan Manto, or if we talk about Shakespeare, or if we talk about any other creative writer or any other great authors, they always had a very keen eye for the society. They always have very strong observation for the things around them. So always keep your ears, always keep your eyes open, and you will find 1,000 stories in a single day. There would be a story in every other person that you will see on the road. Maybe that person that you see every day on the road cleaning the road, maybe that person, that policeman that is standing there on the road. There are thousands of stories in each and every one of them. All you need is just a slight idea of their story, and your whole story, your whole theme would be prepared from that. Now over to the next slide. The third section of our today's workshop is refining your craft. Now, as we have talked earlier, that first of all, it is important to generate ideas. First of all, it is important to write freely without considering the structure of the writing, without editing the writing, without refining the writing, that is completely okay. First of all, you would need to have a writing, you would need to prepare a rough draft for your writing. You would have to craft an idea, you would have to put those ideas, those unsequenced ideas on a paper. But what makes a writing compelling is the structure of that writing, is the ability of that writing to grasp the attention of the reader. And to grasp the attention of the reader, you would have to keep your writing coherent. There must be a sequence, there must be a structure in your writing, there must be a structure in your plot, in which from exposition to resolution everything must be moving in a sequence. So for that there are different techniques. Through those techniques you can actually hook the reader, you can grasp the attention of the reader, you can keep him interested in your writing. You would not let the writer be bored of whatever you are actually telling them. So first of all, the first and foremost and most important thing is, in creative writing we do not tell things, we actually show them, show the readers, we actually show all the readers whatever we are talking about. From this, as just as earlier I read that excerpt, or I taken out that excerpt from Shakespeare's Hamlet. So not for a single moment he has said anything about life or death, but he has actually shown the beauty of life and the horrors of death in that excerpt. Or if you people are asked to write about leadership, if you people are asked to write about community service that you have done in your life, you're not going to tell them that I have been a leader in this particular role, or I have been done this or that. We actually convey our qualities, we actually convey our messages through anecdotes, through short stories, through instances in which we would have acted in a certain way, which will signify our leadership, which will signify the theme or the core of our story. So while creatively writing, we never tell things, we actually show things. We might narrate at some points, we might indicate to certain things at some points, but we do not directly tell them that I have leadership qualities. We do not tell them that I have been doing community services, or I am an empathetic person. We actually show them those things through our stories. The second thing is that refine your writing, or that actually hook the reader, is using of sensory details. The more detailed your writing would be regarding the things that you have seen, regarding the things that you are setting for the whole story, the surrounding, the green forests, or how the birds were sounding at that moment, or how the tree that you touched felt, or how the things that you have seen, or how the weather, the wind that you have felt, actually, you have felt that wind in a certain way. So by actually writing those sensory details uh, completely in a effective way, that is what actually making the readers to be interested in your writing. The third one is creating a strong openings. We also call it the hook sentence, or hooking the reader. When you're writing, when you're starting, when your opening of your story is compelling, it actually motivates the reader to read further. It excites him, and he go on, he reads your whole story. There is a very good, like, if somebody would ask me what is the most effective openings that you have ever read, so I would say there is a novel written by Albert Camus, The Stranger. The novel is actually based upon a French person, a French citizen who lives far away from his family, and that person is of an absurd mind. The absurd mind, in a sense that he is so detached from the world, he is detached from his family, he is completely detached from everything in this world. So Albert Camus opens the book, or opens his story, with this particular line which says, Mama died today, or maybe yesterday. I don't know. Now, when you read this line, it actually make it actually gives you a message about the character. It actually tells you what sort of a person that character is, and it becomes one of the most effective and strong opening in literature. If you grasp the idea of a character from the very beginning, it actually compels you to read more about him, because it actually, it creates a suspenseful, maybe, or it uh, it instigate your curiosity. So this is very important to create strong openings for your stories. The fourth one is dialogues. uh, we all know how important dialogues are, and as I said earlier, while writing stories, while creating, in creative writing, we do not tell things, we actually show things. So whenever you are proceeding with your stories, there might be dialogues, there would be dialogues through which the story would be moving ahead. Instead of narrating the things, instead of commenting on the things, there would be dialogues between the characters, and those dialogues would be interesting. Maybe we would try to make those dialogues interesting. We would try to actually make those dialogues meaningful, which will contribute to the story. Nevertheless, there are also additional comments to the dialogue, which we to which, like, we call them the additional comments. Those comments could be maybe some internal voice of the characters. Those comments could be actually the narration of the story, but those are just to aid the dialogues and to put some clarity into the story, into the writing. But it is very important to have effective dialogues while crafting a story. Now, over to the next slide. uh, Again, once you have written your whole story, once your whole draft is prepared, uh, if that is of an essay, or even if that's of a letter, or that's of a story, that's of a script, once your whole draft is complete, after that you have to focus on your language. Before that, you can write whatever you write. You can write in any language. Don't worry about the grammatical errors or the coherence or the connection. Don't worry about anything. But once you are done with your whole draft, once you are done uh, depicting your ideas through words, after that it is very important to refine your writing, to edit your writing. So for that, there are certain things that you people need to keep in your mind. First of all is you have to focus on the structure. The structure of any writing, of any piece of writing, is really important. It's the structure that actually makes the reader feel comfortable, that actually keep him interested. If your writing is structured, if it is not that one event is happening at at one place and another event is happening at some other place, and there is no connection in them, and that way you are actually going to bore the reader, or maybe you are actually confusing the reader, which is not a positive connotation. Second thing is unnecessary words, or maybe overusing jargons. For this, it is very important to keep one thing in mind, that you have to know your audience. You have to know the demography of your audience. You have to know the age group of your audience. There are two kinds of creative writing pieces. One is for general audience. It is something that you write for everyone, like The Alchemist, the novel. If we read that, everyone can read that, everyone understands that, and everyone actually enjoys that. And then there are writings that are for some specific audience. Like if you would write pieces from Dostoevsky, or if you would write things from Franz Kafka, they are specifically written for all those people who are enchanted by philosophy, who have some philosophical background, or who wants to explore the realm of philosophy. So they are specifically written for that. Nevertheless, everybody could read them, but not everybody would be as fascinated by those writings as the people from that background, or for people who are interested in that genre. So it is really important to keep your writing simplified, to know your audience and to actually write for them. If you're writing for professional people, if you're writing something that you want that only people from a certain background need, then you can add multiple jargons, that you can use very complicated language as per your choice or as per your writing. But what I would suggest is that the effective uh, creative writing piece is the one which is open for everybody, which everybody could read, which everybody could understand, because that is the essence of creative writing: to simplify things, to convey complicated ideas, to convey ideas that might not be very easy to grasp in simple words and in beautiful and aesthetic way. The third one is check for grammar and coherence, which is again very important. Grammar, language, good English, using good and I would say words which could be used in a certain place. It is very important. So after completing your draft, it is necessary to go through your whole writing and to amend the parts which you feel, or maybe to proofread it and to amend the part which you need, think that it needs more clarity, or it needs coherence, or maybe it needs correction. And the last one, tips for self editing. So you if you want to edit your writing on your own, you have to read, you have to go through it. For that, first of all, it is very important to keep this thing in mind, that you must have know-how of grammar, you must have know-how of basic English, of sentence structures and stuff like that, so in that way you would be able to actually edit your writings. Now over to the next slide. The last part of our today's workshop is about inspiration and practices. So it is really important for writing and for creativity to stay inspired. To stay inspired maybe by the surrounding, to stay inspired maybe by some people you actually look up to stay inspired maybe by the society, or any such thing. So to there are different techniques for that, to stay inspired. uh, First of all is the habits of successful writers. I would recommend you guys, and I would suggest that you guys actually read the biographies of different writers, or maybe you follow them closely through social media, or you people should look into their lives and the things that they do. There are certain different writers, like if I would talk about Ernest Hemingway. So Hemingway says that when I am working on a book or a story, I write every morning as soon as after first light as possible. So there are different habits of different writers, like Ernest Hemingway, who is a very good writer. They have a different approach towards the writing, they have a different approach towards the habit. In the same way, different writers have different approach. So it is going to help you exploring your habits that might keep you inspired while writing. The second source of inspiration could be books, movies, or some personal experiences. Reading is very important. If you want to write, you must read, first of all, to keep your brain updated, to keep your brain charged, to keep your brain inspired. You must read. You must read different forms of writing. You must read from every writer, and in that way you could also explore the things that actually inspire you. You could actually explore the topics, the ideas that you want to further write on. Secondly, movies, again, it's a form of creative writing. It's actually a picturized depiction of creative writing. So you could also draw some inspiration from movies, personal experiences. You could write events from your personal life that also inspires you. The third technique that keeps you inspired for writing is writing something every day. Uh, there are the series of events happen in our daily life throughout even through a very occasional day. Not, I wouldn't say an occasional day, but if we go through a very simple day in our life, or through a very ordinary day in our life, still there are so much that has happened or maybe that is happening around us. So if we would write about it in a paragraph or in two paragraphs and stuff like that. It is very important. It's a practice that adds on to the creativity of a certain person. It's a practice that adds on to the minds of certain person. Now over to the next. uh, so that was all from my side for today's session. I hope you people would have gained not a lot but a little bit about creative writing, and about the fundamentals of creative writing. Uh, Now the floor is open for the questions. So if you guys have any questions, you people can ask me. Uh, Turn on your mic and ask your question, or you people can put it in the chat box. In both ways, that's fine by me. Okay, so if anybody could read the comments from the YouTube live. Okay, okay, okay. All right, I got it. Okay, so how to mark? Now, if somebody could clarify the question, because it's a very vague question. How to mark what? Okay, so I'm actually seeing all of your questions. I was also, okay about the attendance mark. Okay, all right. You could drop your name in the chat box here, and that's how you can actually mark your attendance. As for the other people who was saying that, yeah, creative block is actually real and annoying. And there are different tips, as I have said earlier in the session. There are different techniques through which you can actually uh, minimize those challenges. So I hope it won't be any more annoying. So I hope it is clear to all of you guys. Then we would proceed towards the ending. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this session, and thank you so much for being patient. Have a good night.